It is a pleasure to be here today. It is an exciting topic, and I can't wait to dive into it. Before we do, this is Chart Chat. It's more than just chit chat. It's Chart Chat. Unless your laser engraver goes crazy, and then it's Thrack Thack. So then we can change the name for today. But yes, that is what that is. My name is Jeff Shaffer. I am the professor at the University of Cincinnati, where I teach data visualization 1 and 2 and descriptive analytics and some other courses coming up. And I am the vice president of IT and analytics at a company called Unifund and a co-author of the Big Book of Dashboards with my co-hosts here. I'm going to turn it over to Steve.
Hey, I am Steve Wexler. I am the chief professional chart looker at Data Revelations, along with Andy and Jeff, one of the authors of the Big Book of Dashboards and the author of The Big Picture. And I will hand things over to Amanda.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amanda Makulec. I am the executive director of the Data Visualization Society and a health data visualization designer based out of Washington, D.C. Very excited to dig into this topic today, and we'll hand the mic over to Andy for our last introduction.
Hi, everybody. Andy Cotgreave, Senior Data Evangelist at Tableau. Back from sabbatical, back in the saddle. Excited to be here. And this month, I'm fighting for the human race. Yeah.
All right. Well, we encourage you to join in on the conversation. If you are in the YouTube app, you'll see that see all the comments flying. People from around the world. We have Boise and Dallas and Canada and Raleigh. Thank you all for joining. Please join in the chat. We encourage you to chat along. That'll raise questions for our discussions. That will bring in topics that maybe we're not thinking about, and might also get us started on the after party. So we'll see where that leads to. We also encourage you to join the debate. This isn't just about us and our opinions. We started Chart Chat for this very reason, because we enjoyed the debate through the work on the Big Book of Dashboards and wanted to continue that. And I will point out there's a theme today of, this image was created by Midjourney. More to come on that later, but this is 4 dogs having a debate. Got some breaking news for you. Our new website is now live, so you can find all of our past episodes at chartchat.live. We have it all in one place. You can register for the next episode, which is coming up in March. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But this website has all of our past episodes on there, has links to other resources and things along the way. So please check that out. Please subscribe to our Big Book of Dashboards and Chart Chat newsletter, and you will get notifications on that. And today's special guest is ChatGPT, an artificial intelligence platform that is a natural language processing engine. And so this episode is Chart Chat GPT. We want to talk about what ChatGPT is. You've probably heard about it. It's all over the news, but with a specific bent toward data analytics and data visualization. Let's start with what it is. GPT stands for a generative pre-trained transformer. In analytics, we call it a transformer model. And I won't dive into that. I'll kind of show you some cool things under the hood that you can look at and kind of how it looks. But that's really what they call this. It's a transformer model, or in short, it's just a big probability model. It set records, 1 million users in 5 days and 100 million users in 2 months. So chances are, with everybody on that we have today, we're racking up hundreds of people here. I'm sure that a lot of you have registered and probably tried to use it. It's basically a large language model that is trained on past information. It's set to a huge database. They started out with, I don't even know how many billions of parameters, but I think they narrowed it down to 175 billion parameters. And there's different types of models. And again, I'll go into a little bit of that in a few minutes, but just trying to, get everybody up to speed as to what it actually does. And so you can ask it questions. You can talk to it in a normal voice, just like your Alexa or your other app. You can say, please explain ChatGPT to a child in the 6th grade. And so it says it can help you come up with ideas and stories and conversations. It's a super smart brain to come up with a response. that seemed a little dumbed down for me for the 6th grade, but okay, that's fine. But then I said, please explain it to a college professor who's very familiar with machine learning technology. And it comes back and it gives a much different answer, right? It talks a little bit different about how it works. So it responds based on the text that you're putting in. Now, Google has issued a code red. Amanda's going to talk in a few minutes and maybe dive in about the ethics of this whole thing. You know, companies have banned it or restricted it. Other companies have embraced it. But many companies have really kind of saw the power of this and how it might change the way that we work. As a really quick example, something fun, I did a presentation at Fifth Third Bank, a big bank in the area, headquartered here in Cincinnati. And normally when I do presentations on dashboards or data visualization, I usually get to pick the topic or at least the general idea. And in this case, they asked me to speak at their Tableau day about dashboards. And they said, can you speak on modernization best practices in dashboard design? And I said, sure, I guess I could do that. And so I thought for a second, I said, well, maybe I should go to ChatGPT and say, hey, what is modernization best practice design as it relates to dashboards? And it gave me a definition. And it said visually appealing, more user-friendly, integrating with the applications, accessible on a variety of devices. Seemed reasonable. I don't know that it got all of them. And then I went through and talked about each one, identify KPIs and use clear and concise, easy language and use graphical elements such as charts and graphs. That one was a little vague to me. I'm like, doesn't everybody use charts and graphs? Make dashboards customizable and integrate them into your CRM system like Salesforce and your ERP and make them accessible on all kinds of variety of devices, desktop and so on. And so, you know what? I thought these were all pretty good. I kind of dove in a little deeper on each one of them. And I gave this presentation at Fifth Third. And at the end, I said, and thank you, ChatGPT, for creating my presentation today. It can do other interesting tasks, and it's smart in some instances on these tasks. Create a list of 10 example addresses in 10 different cities and states. And those are fake addresses in those cities and states, and it just randomly picked those. But notice that it didn't do Phoenix, Texas, or San Diego, Pennsylvania. It really got major cities in the states, and it did it correctly. Now, asking it to generate a list of 10 longitudes and latitudes for Cincinnati, Ohio, if you're familiar with the company 8451, you might think, hey, this did a really good job. But the problem is ChatGPT was mixing up degrees, minutes, and seconds with decimal degrees. And so it is a latitude and longitude, but it's expressed as a degree, minute, second, and that's not correct. And so you have to be specific sometimes in your questions. Express your latitude and longitude in degrees, minutes, and seconds, and then it got it correct. That is the correct longitude and latitude for points in Cincinnati. And then if I want to convert it to decimal degrees, I can say, can you convert these to decimal degrees? And it will. It'll actually give me the formula and show me how it's doing it. And then, of course, again, if you're familiar with Cincinnati, you know, we have an analytics company here called 8451. It can write code, and that's a topic today. I'm going to show you live here in a minute. R code, can it do R code? I just came up with this thing, you know, from my MBA, the Black-Scholes model for pricing an option, right? That was this crazy thing we did in finance many, many years ago. It's like, okay, well, can you write Python code to do that? I didn't actually check this code because I didn't have any need to do that, but it was interesting that it knew what it was and it started doing that. I punched in an exam question for our university. This is an undergrad exam in analytics, and we asked it definitions. What is the definition of overfitting a model? Or can you create a problem set here where you have a probability and it actually answers the combinations or the probability of something happening? And you can just put the test question in, and the checks. These are correct. These are the right answers. I asked it to write a test question and give me the answer, and it could do that, and it appeared correct. So I want to jump out into give you a live demo of how you might use this. A couple tools you could use day to day, but specifically how you might use this in data visualization. I'm going to focus it in R. Before I do that, I want to walk through the OpenAI playground. You'll notice I did not get a computer from iStock with kids playing. That is not a popular photograph. I created that on Midjourney. So I'm going to jump over to my browser real quick. And give me 1 second here. I'm just going to move.
Some great comments coming in. A lot of people have been trying out ChatGPT. Mark has written a song about Tableau in the style of Paul McCartney. We are still waiting for him to post the lyrics in the chat window. Nicole, I love this one. Nikki, sorry, says you're trying to translate things into corporate jargon. That seems like a good stuff as well. And then some of you, like Alex, trying to get some real utility out of it as well. It's there for all things. So great stuff.
Thank you. So this is the ChatGPT normal window where you would ask a question. What is Tableau, right? And you can ask it any question and answer, it'll tell you what it is. Right or wrong, it's trained on a data set. That data only goes to the end of 2021. So, that's one problem, is it's not up to date with the news. But
hey, Jeff, can you just zoom in on the ChatGPT text?
Sure.
Or just zoom the window in so it makes it a bit easier.
Sure.
Yeah. There you go. Better.
And one add-in I'd like to show you is at the bottom. There's an add-in you can get for ChatGPT. It's called Web Access. So now you could actually take this to the web, and it'll get the top 3 web results from Google, and it'll use that text in answering your question. So you could use that as a resource because, again, it doesn't have any data for the last year in its model. You also notice that every question that I ask is over here. For example, I did ask earlier, can you explain the difference between a green and purple pill in Tableau? Now, if you've used Tableau, there's no such thing as a purple pill. Not only did it tell me about the purple pill, it told me a green pill was a dimension and a purple pill is a measure. And it tells me that the color codings have to do with dimensions and measures. And so basically all of that information is incorrect, right? That's not correct at all. But in other cases, it gives me a really accurate answer. I want to show you under the hood. You can go to the Open AI Playground. You can turn on, you can pick which model you want it to use, and it's using a ChatGPT model, but you can turn on probabilities. And yeah, we know it's red and green for all the colorblind folks out there, but it's really showing the probability of the response. I asked it to create a funny title and write an abstract for a presentation on ChatGPT, and this is its response. Now, it thinks the word title, well, that's 95% probability. That's a really good word. It wasn't so sure about the word allow, but in the total probability, it worked. And it figured out there's some other words that might fit in that sentence that might respond, but it could be a tool that can generate machines, or a tool that can help machines, or a tool that can create machines. And it figured out it should use the word allow. So this is under the hood. You can play with this. You can put in different parameters to this, and it'll act just like ChatGPT, and it'll respond. I want to show you some other.
Jeff, is this on the paid account?
No, this is open. I think this is just open on their. Yeah, this is just open on their developer platform, I think. Yeah, I should just mention the paid account that Andy's talking about is. I do pay for it just so that when I'm doing a demonstration like this, it's actually working. ChatGPT at times with 100 million users on it, it does shut down. I read a statistic that if you take the entire written catalog of everything been written to date in the history of the world, ChatGPT is generating that every 14 days in text. So people are just flooding it with things, and it's just spitting out all sorts of text. So anyway, let's keep going down this. I want to show you a couple interesting tools. There's a bunch of add-ins for Chrome. This is our last Chart Chat episode, and this is an add-in that'll use ChatGPT, that'll take the transcript to ChatGPT. It'll dump in the transcript, and here is the summary of our last episode of Chart Chat. Hey, we might be using this to put our descriptions on our YouTube videos. Who knows, right? And that's very accurate, by the way. It got the guests, and it got, I don't know about the spellings on some of those, but it did a pretty good job.
And it's among 4 people, not between 4 people. Crazy.
So this is where we don't have to worry about ChatGPT going ahead and writing whole novels and books at this point, which I know some people have said writing is dead with ChatGPT, which clearly is not correct.
There's a couple other interesting add-ons. Share GBT, you can share the conversations. There's another platform called Flow GBT where people are doing different topics, writing a resume or essays or job cover letters or so on. All those things are fun websites. But there's a couple other nice add-ins. There's a couple add-ins for Chrome. Who is Edward Tufte? Anybody heard of that guy? Google will answer that question, but you'll see I have a chat GBT, add-in over here that is giving me the answer real time right here in Chrome. You can also add an add-in that'll go to a website like the Big Book of Dashboards, or you know what, you've all seen the Big Book of Dashboards. If we're going to use a website, we should use chartchat.live, our brand new website. You can come down and look at something on the website and say, hey, I've never heard of this thing called the Big Book of Dashboards. I don't know what that is. You could right click on it and you could fire off another add-in called Luna that would send it to OpenAI. And Luna will just say, hey, the Big Book of Dashboards, what is it? And it'll fire it off for you. So you don't have to type things in or go back and forth. So lots of interesting add-ins on that. You can check those out. I really like the YouTube summary one, and I especially like the Chrome add-ins with Google. I'm going to stop generating that. I want to take you to the more interesting thing, which is some code. What are the popular R packages to visualize data? It nailed that. Those are popular. ggplot would probably be your top choice. Shiny if you want to make it interactive. So can we generate things in R? Using R with the iris data set. If you used R, it's the very famous iris data set that everybody practices on. Create a scatter matrix with sepal width, sepal height, petal width, petal height. Create a histogram of the same variables. Create summary statistics of the data. And let's create a prediction model and see if you can predict the species. The interesting thing is it got 3 out of the 4 correct. And the first one, sometimes it gets, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it requires a little extra tweaking. Here's another one that fascinated me that I've been playing with a lot, because a lollipop tart. I think my co-host here, Andy Cotgreave, is the one who probably coined that term, as best we can tell. And it hasn't been around that long. This is a new term in the world. And so ChatGPT not only knows the term, but can also create the plot. And this code ran almost perfectly. There's a couple things it did with size. So at first it did this, and I was like, wow, that's impressive. But how do you make the bars thinner? How do you make those lines thinner? Can you change the color? So I asked it first, change the color to blue. Well, that was easy. It could do that. Can it change the line color? Sure, just set the size. And so now it's not only doing the code for you, it's telling you how you can modify the code on your own to change the code to do it. And sure enough, it spit that out. So what I want to do is just take you over to R, just to give you some live. I'm going to do this live. I could take any one of these things and take them over to ChatGPT, right? I could take all these words that I wrote. I just put a pound sign in front to comment them out. So they're comments in the code, but I'm in R Studio. And what I want to do is just say, hey, using the iris data set, I want to create a scatter plot of petal length and petal width. Well, I set up an add-in in R called GPT Studio. And there's a bunch of add-ins. There's one for Visual Studio. I think there's some for Python. But right here in this add-in, I can write code. So write code from a prompt. I'm going to hit the prompt. Now, it's not as exciting as watching ChatGPT generate the code, because ChatGPT is generating the code. But what is exciting is it just plops the code back in here. And what it does is it says, hey, with comments, by the way, it said load the iris data, which it did. It plots it, and here is the code. And so if I run it, does it work? Sure does. There's the scatter plot over there. And all I did was tell it to do a scatter plot based on this data set. Okay, well, what about the one that we just watched? We say, what about writing R code for a lollipop? Up here, I go and just write some code and just say, yeah, let's see what it'll do with a lollipop. You'll notice in all my prompts, I had to say write R code over and over again. That's because of this add-in. It starts a new session each time, so it doesn't remember your previous plots. But let's see how it did. Again, Andy just invented this name, 8-10 years ago. Let's see.
I think it's 12 years, I think.
12 years ago.
I didn't invent the chart type. I just gave it a name.
Okay. Well, ChatGPT recognizes your name from 12 years ago. And
excuse me, Andy, it was George Santos who came up with the name. Okay.
And so I'm not going to walk through all of these for you, but this to me is sort of the power of what this can do. Now, it's not perfect, just like it's not perfect when it says Tableau has a purple pill. In this instance, if I write this code, sometimes the scatter matrix works and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it uses a package that doesn't exist. Now, this code looks good to me. This actually uses ggplot, and it looks like it will probably work. Now, sometimes it'll give you the install the package, and sometimes it doesn't. I already have ggplot installed, so I'm just going to comment that out. But let's just run this code and see what it looks like. And, sure enough, that scatter matrix just created on the fly. What about some histograms? Yeah, we can do those too. And we can just run some code, just write some code based on that, and it will do the histograms. The setup of this was probably more challenging than using it. It's just, you got to install from GitHub, and you got to set up an API on GitHub and on ChatGPT, but it's not too difficult at all. And so, that's really what this is doing. There's our code. It looks like it's creating histograms in dark blue. So we will run those. And sure enough, we have histograms. And we can keep going. It'll even generate a prediction model, which is kind of crazy. Can we generate a model? Last night when I tried this, it actually created a random forest model and got 95% accurate in its model. Sometimes it creates a linear model, and you could certainly probably specify it. In this case, it's just doing a regular linear model. So that's what it looks like it's doing here. So yeah, that's pretty crazy that it's doing this code. It can load the data set. It's setting up a training, of 70%, right, for your training data. It's setting up your model. It's evaluating the model. Let's run it. Oh, there's your answer. Doesn't work. So what's going on? Well, you have an error in the code. So Iris, it's reading the CSV file. You'd have to have a little knowledge now of R to troubleshoot this. The reality is you don't even need to do that, right? Like, you could use the Iris data up here without loading it. Iris is a known data set. So really you could just say Iris is Iris, and you don't even need to do that because Iris is a canned data set in here. So anyway, you'd have to be able to work through those problems, know enough about R to be able to troubleshoot. One interesting thing is you can combine it with ChatGPT, and you could take it back to ChatGPT and say, "Can you fix this code? It doesn't work," and that helps. So that is my live demo. I want to save some time because I know Andy has some things to show. So that's all I have. I want to pass it to Andy.
Yeah, that's cool. I guess there's been a few questions as well, and some great comments coming in too. And we're seeing, we'll come on to the ethics certainly for the later on in the after party. So keep those comments coming in, and Jeff can have a look at those as I share my screen. So I am going to represent the human beings. Why can't I share my screen?
Are you going to be the human in the loop now, Andy? Is that your goal?
I'm going to be the human in the loop. But I can't share my screen. Oh, yes, I can. Let's share my entire screen. And this is the question I was asking last week. Can it analyze data? Can it do what we have been trying to do as professional chart looker-atters for the last N years? Let's have a look. So these are taken from a YouTube video I put on my channel earlier this week. And they're based on this slide, which is something I've used for a long time in training and presentations. What's the right chart for this data set? Now, as analysts, most of it, as we'll look at this and see data over time, so we'll say a line chart. But as I did show my exercise, slightly longer time than these are all appearing, that's a really hard question to answer, because there's a line chart combining A and B, or there's a line chart breaking A and B out separately. I don't know which one you want. You could do a cumulative of running total to see something interesting about B, which you can't see in a line chart. Stacked area charts have their advantages and disadvantages. If you really need to see the totals, they're okay. or slope charts to focus on the start and the end, or the delta. Here's a baseline for A, and you can see the difference between A and B each month. Maybe you just don't need a chart. You just need the final set of numbers, or even write a paragraph. That might be the right answer. So in the exercise, when I'm doing this, I'm really trying to make this point that as an analyst, we can cycle through all these charts in a matter of moments, particularly in Tableau. It's really easy to do all these charts in about 2 minutes and more. And each time we're seeing a different answer, and we're trying to hone in on the best articulation of the data for the question we have in mind. So I've been doing that for quite a long time. And I've confidently always added this slide in going, haha, but what would a machine do? And, at best, it might recognize time-based data and it might give you a line chart. So you're only going to get one answer from the machines. That's done me well for about 3, 4, 5 years. But here we are, ChatGPT lands on our doorsteps and says, well, I'm a really clever machine. Well, let's put that to the test. So we can copy and paste data into ChatGPT. Here's a clip from the video. And here's me asking it, what is the best chart for this data starting for that great analyst? And just Control V, you can paste that data in, and it will take that data about it. So it's a data. So it's a bar chart. That first Gantt grouped bar chart. So I'm going to go back to slides now. A grouped bar chart. It won't yet build a chart for you, although we can talk a bit more about that. So I built one in Tableau. I hate grouped bar charts, particularly in Tableau, because they're a cognitive overload. It's really hard to see what's going on here. So I told ChatGPT, I don't like your answer. I don't like them. What else can I do? And then I've cropped out the top, but it said stacked bar chart. Then it said line chart. So it's third favorite chart. Heat map, small multiples. I'm not really sure that's relevant for this data set. And then it says, well, ultimately, the choice depends on the insights you want to convey with that data and the preferences of your audience. And given this thing has been trained on the language that people like us on this show, and thousands of authors and thousands of bloggers have written, that's reasonable advice. Ultimately, I can't tell you what the answer is. I'm not actually an intelligent machine. I'm just spouting out what Steve, Jeff, Andy, Amanda, and the army of people like us have said on the internet. So it's reasonable, right? It's reasonable. It's a good way to search for information, but it's not intending to try and be additive by creating new insights. So B+, I'm giving it. Then I thought, okay, can you actually analyze the data itself? Which month did B outsell A? I asked ChatGPT. Remember the chart that I built? It only takes a few minutes to build it, a few seconds to build this in Tableau. We've got May, September, October, November, and December. Oh, April. No, it's wrong. It didn't. And here we go. These questions on the surface look so confidently answered. I said, can you try that again? And it said, oh yeah, just October and November. No, there was 5 months it outsold it. And then I said, well, can you show your workings for May? Right? And look at this. It says A, 100, B, 150. Therefore, A was bigger than B. I'm like, what? That's not right. I have experimented further with this. I think the word sale and outsell confuses ChatGPT, even though it recognizes and talks about product sales and how you might market your products better to improve sales. So it's not getting this language interpretation correct. If you ask it when is it larger than the other, it tends to get that right. So I tried the other question that I think is really important. What about cumulative sales? And and here, look, hang on, sorry, let me just go back a slide. It actually writes down an equation. It's like, look at me, I can do sums. So it's projecting on the surface this incredible confidence in what it's going to give you. So 2260 and 2950. No. And I've tried this so many times. I've actually been like, am I adding? I've done this in calculators. I've even written down it on pen and paper. I'm like, am I wrong or is it wrong? It's definitely wrong. So this is really, and all very funny. But if people are out there thinking this can analyze data and do numeric calculations. It can't. If you give it a sum of about 4 numbers, it copes. But then, well, so what? That's not actually general analytics. I actually gave it just those numbers. It still got it wrong. I then tried to give it, look, I'm going to give it you in some sort of coding language. Here's an Excel formula. Still got it wrong. 2,360. So here's the challenge. ChatGPT for searching for text-based information, really very interesting. As a learning code machine and a way to learn code, I think it's fantastic. What a great tool to have as a beginner to supplement your learning about the theory of code. But it's a big fat F for any kind of analytics with numbers, I would say. So can it analyze data? Right now, I would say don't do anything numeric on ChatGPT. And, well, there you go. And yeah, Steve, what do you think?
Well, two cool questions, or a question and a comment. One is, did you try to correct it and point out its flaws in a nurturing, caring type of human way? Did you give it a thumbs down and point out what was wrong? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so I went back a few times. I've tried run this experiment several times, and I've said, I think that answer's wrong. Can you try again? And it still gets it wrong, and it gets it wrong inconsistently. Yep. I think one interesting thing was trying to play around with the language of outsell, using the word outsell, sale. When is the number bigger than the other? And you can lead it to the right answer, but then I think of all the percentages of people who can type text and therefore think they're getting a confident answer surface back, what is the percentage of people who can who have the time, effort, energy, and skill to actually get it to hone in on the right answer? Each one of those little adjectives reduces the amount of people that will be able to use ChatGPT in its current state for accuracy. So
the other observation is just I've been experimenting with both ChatGPT and the new Bing search engine, which is being powered by ChatGPT, and I will often get different responses. So, for example, ChatGPT thinks Jeff is a 2-time Iron Biz champion and he invented champagne, and whereas the Bing search seems better when I'm doing comparisons with these things. Both seem ridiculously confident, and that's one of the comments, common comments that I'm seeing is people are saying that it just says, here's the answer, here's how I came up with it, and who's going to do the math and do that addition that's in the thing. Also, what it thinks 2 days ago has changed on some of the questions that I've asked it.
I found that I ran this morning, and I said, what chart will you show? And it's like, here is an image, and then it kind of spits out this imgur or imgur.com. I've never said that site out loud. Imgur? How do you say that site? Anyway, imgur.com. Anyway, it spits out a URL to there, the image hosting site, which then just sort of blows up and says image can't be found. So I'm not. This morning it was trying to give me an image, but then it was rendering an incorrect URL. So I'm not sure quite what's happening there. And I think all 4 of us would agree. Again, it's not great for analytics, but this is version 3. What's it going to be like in version 6, 7, 8? It's gonna.
Oh, look, we're also seeing comments of people saying they're blown away by some of the stuff it has come up with, and certain things have worked remarkably well. Jeff, you pointed out the purple pill in Tableau, but I asked it about doing how do I do a percent of total for sales across these different categories, and it said, oh, it gave me step by step. Here's how to do a table calculation. Well, suppose I don't want to do it as a table calculation. Oh, well, here's how you could do it as an LOD expression. Well, so and it got it just right.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that part of this for me, and your comment about the language component, Andy, about kind of sell versus outsell, and those kind of components make me think of the importance of semantic layers when we're working with big analytics platforms and tools. So the kind of structure of the data, how we have the data labeled, what the various field names are. If you're working in a tool that's more self-service analytics and natural language search in analytics, like a ThoughtSpot, or trying to use the tools like Ask Data in Tableau or the similar feature in Power BI, you're relying on being able for a computer model to go in and kind of find corollaries and match what your question is back to the data that's in the field. world and kind of generate that query for you. And so I think that the constraints of language are really interesting because they speak to the same challenges that we've seen in some of the very hyped up, I think, opportunities for people to say you can just ask your data questions and it will return the answers. And there's a lot of reliance on having that kind of governed semantic layer that some tools have really baked into what their product offering is. When we kind of relate this back to a business intelligence world around what Looker does with their Look ML layer, or looking at what tools like ThoughtSpot do. But doing that kind of curation of data takes a lot of time. So the kind of breadth of what ChatGPT has is really interesting, and I'm curious to see how some of that learning evolves, but with guardrails. I think there's lots of good comments in the chat box all about don't go post your kind of private company or client data into this open AI model. And as we think about kind of what that looks like, it just throws back the challenges of finding things that overlay things that we're really excited about and love, and things that are secure and that we can use in a secure environment and way, which maybe we can dig into at some point during our chat today. Lots of different parallel paths we could go down with this conversation.
And I think we'll save some of those for the after party. We really like to dive in the after party to the some of the ethical issues in ChatGPT. So please stick around and join us for that if you can. I'm going to jump to a second related topic, which is generative AI as it relates to images and how we could potentially use that in our work, especially data visualization. Now, I'm going to kick PowerPoint out for just 1 second out to the sort of designer mode so that you can see this, because I'm going to do this live in PowerPoint. So this is PowerPoint as you're designing slides. Everybody's designed a bunch of slides, of course, right? And so what I want to show you.
We're good.
Have we lost Jeff?
He did say he was having a couple of internet flicks in terms of challenges with his internet connection.
There you go. You're back.
Excellent.
Okay. Can you see me now?
We can. Show us PowerPoint magic, Jeff.
I'm not sure Jeff is with us.
Andy, do you want to do one of the examples Jeff was going to show? You know, that blew your mind the other day.
I'll share my screen. So let's put my. So what Jeff was going to show is something that I didn't know you could do until Jeff showed me earlier this week. Is that you can go into PowerPoint and type the word banana, and then on the side here on the left, on the right hand side. Oh, is it not working? It will generate design ideas, and look at that. I've got bananas on my. In fact, look, even animated ones. It didn't do this the other day. So I literally typed in the word banana, and it's given me bananas. So this is what Jeff was saying is available in PowerPoint right now, and this is AI augmenting our daily lives. I did actually try this with cucumber, and it didn't do cucumber. So I'm not sure it's always successful. But there we'll go.
You're saying it has a preference for fruit over vegetables?
Maybe it does. Maybe it does. Yeah. So anyway, Jeff, you are back. I will hand back to you.
I hope I'm back. I'm having some internet issues, so my apologies. But thank you for the banana demonstration. There's a tool called
always here for that.
On Discord, and so you can sign up for this for free. There is a paid version of this where you can do your own private chat channel as well. I used the word artificial intelligence and generated this image. So you type in a prompt like imagine, and I'm going to do some crazy things. A blue apple with eyes, a nose, and a mouth, and hair on top. And it didn't quite get the mouth, but it did some pretty crazy images, right? Very high resolution. I took a University of Cincinnati logo and said, remix it as metal art, a claw, bearcat, red, black. And that's what it came up with. Maybe that'll be our new UC logo. Took the monogram of UC and said, can you make it as a Gothic logo created in metal? And, you know, I get sort of this Batman looking thing. I went a little crazier. I said, take this image of Andy and do it as an oil painting on canvas. I don't think Andy's seen this yet, but there's Andy on oil. And I don't know about you folks, but I think we got something here. I think this can work.
And you should have said as painted by Salvador Dali.
Right. Could have been fun. And maybe we can do that. As it relates to data visualization, I'm curious how we can use this. You know, can we use it to wireframe our dashboards? Can we use it for inspiration in our design? Asked Midjourney to create a modern hospital scheduling dashboard, red, line chart, area chart, bar chart. Sure, throw a donut chart in there too. Why not? And it did, you know, and this is what it came up with. Notice no real text, no real data numbers. This is all just, you know, junk, but it's creating an image based on trained images of what it's seen. Keep in mind, it's probably seen a lot of bad dashboards too.
So
Beautiful,
Jeff,
high quality dashboard design, rainbow animal
Jeff.
parrot graph images. Did you say something, Andy?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go back to the hospital dashboards. Were they the original? Are they the 4 prompts or 4 responses, or had you honed in a little bit on those?
Those are the 4. Those were the 4 immediate responses. Yeah, and you can create variations of them. And
wow, that's amazing, because in the top left you've got because the bottom right one is a very sort of pure business style, and the top.
By the way,
left one
sadly, most of my clients
web style
will go, "Can you make something that looks like that?" Oh my God, that's exactly what we're looking for. No, it's not.
But let's see if we can.
Let's see. Let's movie 10 years from now.
Let's play with it a little more. Here's a rainbow, you know, a parrot on our dashboard. So you want to do something about birds, or you know, maybe that's a little better. It, you know, has some artwork, but it doesn't get in the way of the visualizations. Certainly, you could turn that into a good dashboard, Steve. Right? I mean, you could put 5 charts on the top of it and redesign those donut charts pretty quickly. I actually really like the bar chart design at the bottom, so I thought some of this dashboard really kind of worked. Here's one with whale. And so there's our images there. Here's another one, just, okay, cool dashboard with a map. It does really interesting things with maps. And web dashboard with a rainbow truck. You know, is this a transportation dashboard or something? I don't know, but it put the area chart on the side of the truck. I thought that was interesting. Can't remember. If you want to get basic, you know, a monochromatic business dashboard that is simple in design and can be used to answer business questions quickly and easily. Well, I don't think it got the last part of that question. I think Steve will jump in on that one. I don't think it nailed that, but I did like some of the things, like the way that it threw the bands on there, the big bands, and seemed to have some context with the bands in some cases. So I thought that was interesting.
Who's the featured portrait though? I
Yeah.
have to know.
Right. Where'd that come from on the business dashboard?
There's a guy with hipster beard.
That's Jeff drawing a Midjourney image of himself.
And this is the first Tableau public dashboard that I've seen ever using Midjourney. It created, I guess, an image of blueberries to add to somebody's Tableau dashboard. So instead of using iStock and finding images, they created one. So.
But somehow it's not just blueberries. It also has blackberries on there and other kinds of berries. So hit and miss on this one, I think.
I agree with you there.
I mean, they are all berries.
They are blueberries. When you originally showed us this, Jeff, I actually was looking at it and I was like, oh, did it code volume of different kinds of berries when you said it was a Midjourney created image into the kind of volume of berries in these various containers of the box? It definitely went down the path of overthinking what it had done versus being illustrative. And I think that there is always the risk that kind of as these kind of tools come out and we add more embellishments into dashboards, which I think that is an interesting broader question about visual embellishment and how it draws people in, but can also be a bit gratuitous and distract from kind of our core messages and the charts below that image. What that actually looks like and how people might misunderstand the meaning of those different visualizations and visual components.
My God, you're not going to use the term chart junk, are you?
I'm not going to use the term chart junk, but half of this page is taken up by the blueberry box, right?
No. If this generates some good discussions around, you know, what is the most useful and helpful dashboard, it's the comments that are coming in are just great. I couldn't help notice that Alex decided to, and quickly backtracking, Alex Karen decided to see, has it learned anything from Andy's data in the last 3 days? And the answer is no, it's gotten way worse, apparently, in terms of standard deviation, sums, averages, etc. The other thing is, so many of these dashboards really do look like something out of a Tom Cruise movie that's set 10 years in the future, whether it's any of the things, and you're seeing these very sumptuous dark background dashboard type of things.
It's
They
the
don't
rainbow,
actually
it's the
answer any
rainbow,
questions,
it's the
but they
rainbow
do look
aesthetic,
modern.
right? The truck that's hauling in your data by the ton.
Mm.
I
By the
think
ton
that
or
these
metric?
are so interesting though, because like if you were trying to set up ideas or inspiration for a wireframe, like they could totally make sense to look at. And I think some of your points on that are spot on, Jeff. I do worry that you get kind of the same Tableau public effect that I saw with clients who are not data viz creators, where I'd work with clients who ask for things that were far more kind of artistic in by nature instead of functional. And because they saw it on Tableau public and they thought it was so cool. But I'm like, if you want that in a production environment, you're gonna have to do a lot of data densification or add in additional kind of data sets to create the geometries that you want. And it's gonna run really slow and it's not gonna work well for you. And so it kind of creates this curious question about kind of the use cases and where that belongs. And I totally see more of this styling kind of popping up in the world of interesting, inspiring Tableau public type visualizations. I'm nervous about what it means for what clients demand and want when they say, I want better data storytelling or prettier visualizations. And we move back over to that arc of pretty over functional. And there's a space for both.
And Andy knows this, that my concern, and all of you know this, my concern is we are sacrificing the aha for the ooh-ah. I think you can have both, but if you can only have one, do you want the gorgeous, absolutely beautiful car that has no engine in it and doesn't go anyplace, or the 3-cylinder whatever that can actually take you someplace? And so I'm seeing this a lot the last 2 months, that people are gravitating towards things with curvy, anything with curves and roundness in it, and they go, oh my God, this is so beautiful. Yeah, but is it in fact answering a single question that you have? Oh, I guess it isn't. So,
a lot of it's like ChatGPT. It depends on what you put in the engine, right? Like if you put in a simple monochromatic dashboard, you could get something that looks more business, or you could make it a light background or a dark background. So a lot of it really has to do with the question that the parameters that you give it to create it.
I mean, you look at these two, I think that you look at the examples that you've got here and that you've shown, Jeff, and you look at kind of the ways in which it's organizing information. And the other question I always connect back when I see these kind of pretty beautiful, to Steve's point, I think the ooh-ah over the aha, is you end up in a place where I always ask clients, how much time do you want to spend on the styling of these kind of dashboards? Because there's a certain time investment it takes to uplift things to look this shiny. And I asked the question of like, how much money is it worth to you in terms of developer time and effort from the team of data visualization folks who are working on developing and delivering on dashboards? Because the reality is that a lot of us who work in these kind of environments of serving up functional metrics have to think about those trade-offs of kind of, do you have the time to spin up another functional dashboard or spend 5 more days on styling components? And what's possible in different environments might be very different.
Bingo, you are so right about that. The investment that it takes to do some of these things, and maybe if it's customer facing, it's a direct reflection of the company, and all the elements on the dashboard need to have the curvy edges. Fine, go the extra mile, do the Figma stuff, etc. But otherwise, is it necessary to go to all this extra effort, given that the tool you may be using, this doesn't come naturally to it?
We put dollars on it. I mean, there's a dollar investment, especially if you're using consultants as part of your dashboard delivery team. I mean, I sound like such a naysayer right now on this, which is not what I intend to in terms of thinking about their use and inspiration and ideas. But I always do kind of think back to those environments where clients would be like, I want this shiny, pretty cool visualization. And I'm like, I don't think that's going to work with the size of your data and what you're actually trying to answer and get out of that dashboard. And it's a curious line to tread that highlights, I think, the importance of thinking about communication and change management and user-centered design and how we approach dashboard creation, not just kind of spinning up the dashboards for the sake of making them.
I visited one of the big Tableau customers in London last week, and they're a big team. you know, and they're packed full of Tableau visionaries, ambassadors, IronVis champions, you know, so teams who can build the craziest, most obscenely over decorative, not obscene, no, that's not the, no, something highly decorative. And all their dashboards internally are so boring. And I use boring as a fully complement, you know, word of the whole an entire complementary manner, because they recognize there is the space for that. But when you're building the monitoring system that you run a business from, most of that gets stripped out. And how can you make functional beauty, which they nailed really well.
Who wants to talk about the lightning round, our pickup truck, diverging bar chart?
I want to talk about that. Let me get my screen back on. So sorry, I just had to go and tell my children to get off the internet. That's why.
Well, speaking of families, this was a big hit in our family WhatsApp chat, throwing back to my dad's 1984 Toyota pickup truck that had a long bed and no extended cab. So it was a fun conversation on the family WhatsApp about this chart.
Jeff, don't you have like a 1950 vintage truck? Is it a Ford F-150 or is it a Chevy?
It's a 1954 Ford F-100.
Wow, very cool.
I'm guessing
All right.
it's probably in better shape than the slightly rusted body that we were looking at with my dad's truck.
You should share a picture of Jeff's because it's pretty cool. Okay, lightning round. Here is one of my favorite charts of the last month. Axios, our friends at Axios did a long form article Ford F-150 and how they've evolved their shape and height and size over time. And they gave us this little bit of bait for the data viz nerds to take, and I took it because this is a genius chart. Let me explain why. It's all to do with the baseline choice. These are choices we have to make when we're visualizing data. They stuck the baseline at the back of the cab because the main point of the article, well, not the main point, a significant point of the article was that the cabs have gotten bigger and the beds have gotten shorter. Basically, people are using them as normal vehicles and actually not hauling stuff around as much as they used to. Because of this baseline, it's a really viscerally evocative chart. Had they baseline, and it wouldn't have looked so good because now we're kind of hiding the point of the chart. So basically, genius piece of data visualization, really good visual metaphor. I love it. And this applies to other charts. These are the choices we're making all the time. Population pyramids, anybody who did geography will remember these. They were normally rotated this way. Here's the UK in 2040 projected. I can see how many women there are at every single age cohort. I can see how many men there are at every single cohort. Fantastic. But what if the question is, what is the total number of people at each age band? I have no idea. My geography teacher did me a disservice because they said this was the best way to visualize population, and it's not. If I want to answer that question, I've got to change the baseline. So it becomes like this. Now I've paid the price. I can't actually tell. I can't across the age cohorts, but there you go. Every single chart is a compromise. These are the things we are doing every week. Data. It's all about the baseline. No trouble. So thank you to Axios for that. There you go. Lightning round.
And we have had many discussions about population
baselines.
pyramid.
Or Jeff, do you want to share your picture? Yes. In doing this, I found a whole article and blog I wrote about population pyramids in 2012, which I never published. So I think this is the time. Finally.
No, we can go back. We can go back 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah.
Amanda, did you see the baseline when it was first done? Did you notice that? I thought you commented on Twitter something along the lines that you didn't see the
I didn't read it in. Like, it took me. It was not the first thing that seemed apparent to me. I didn't think of it as a baseline as much. It's just kind of seeing how those were shrinking, and then it took me a second that because there was no line drawn into it, right? There's no line drawn across that space. It took me a second to kind of reorganize what they were showing. But I focus more on the cabs, actually, funny enough, and like the really long cab. And I think it's because it's a white truck. I almost would love to see this with the same colors of trucks, because my eye is drawn to that kind of bright, high contrast truck on the end versus the others that kind of blend in. But that's getting into very much the weeds of what I looked at in the course of 30 to 60 seconds. Not any shade at Will, who did this great chart.
Yeah, it's a great article.
Okay, there's a red one.
Oh, look at that. When was the last time that was used to haul logs and barbecue charcoals or something?
Steve or Jeff, are you on mute or just really having tech glitches today?
There we go. No, I've been having internet. I think we're good. So I think that brings us to a close here. I hope we have a lively discussion in the after party about some of these topics. Just a reminder, our live website, chartchat.live, now has all of our past episodes, and you can register for the future episodes. So please check that out. Our next episode is scheduled for March 23rd, 2023 at 10 a.m., not 11. And our special guest will be Spencer Sheehan. He's going to join us to talk about some cool stuff he's been doing, actually also in R, using Ray Shader and Ray Render packages. He's been doing 3D population maps and some cool things. This is Wisconsin, and this is his Grand Canyon map. And so he's doing some beautiful mapping things, all coming out of R. And I followed his YouTube video and did my own in Cincinnati just to have some fun with the data. But he's been doing some great stuff. Always as a resource, check out thebigbookofdashboards.com for upcoming workshops. Specifically, March 28th and 30th, Steve is doing the famous or infamous, I'm not sure which one, the half-day workshops on the Big Book of Dashboards. It's online. Steve, do you have anything to say about that?
No, hope people join me. I don't get an opportunity to do the public ones that often, so there's the URL for it. You can go to bigbookofdashboards.com or Data Revelations, and you can find information about it.
Awesome. And then Andy, you should talk about this.
Yeah, my Communicating and Persuading with Data course, 5 virtual 2-hour sessions delivered live with Thea. It's starting on March the 28th. Steve, we're in competition. But that's 5 days of or 10 hours of training with me. Present your data to get those insights across to everybody. So that's on getsphere.com, getsphere.com, or just follow me on social media and you'll find the links.
Awesome. Somebody asked about links. We will get all the links posted in the here. And Amanda, do you want to plug anything coming up with the Data Viz Society?
We turned 4 this week. It was our birthday on Monday. So we're very excited to have turned 4. Amazing. There's a link to an article that I wrote about our kind of 4-year milestone, what we've done, where we're going. And coming up right now is call to action. We've got Outlier speaker applications due at the end of this month. So apply to speak at Outlier. And if you or someone else you know values great data conferences and content in a hybrid format, come hang out with us, including me, in Porto, Portugal, on May 3rd through the 5th. Or go ahead and check us out virtually as part of our hybrid event. We are looking for conference sponsors, so we would love to hear from you. All the links are in the article that I posted in the chat.
Awesome. And please join us for the after party. All these links are now in the chat window for you. So with
both
that,
links work, CC38 after and party.
Awesome. All right. Well, with that, thank you very much. I hope this was as enjoyable for you guys. I think we had a lot of fun playing with the machine, and we'll get back to our normal charting stuff in our next episode with some fun R maps. So please come back and join us. And with that, thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much. We'll see you all in the after
Bye,
party.
everybody.
Have a great rest of your week. Bye.